Well, good evening, and welcome to the Track Talk Show here at Sports Channel. Your call-in show featuring motorsports here every Wednesday night. Of course, off last week because of the U.S. Pro Tennis Championships out in Longwood. But we're very happy to be back with you on this Wednesday night in New England to talk automobile racing. And our telephone number is area code 617-935-9266. We have another special in-studio guest with us tonight, a gentleman I think you'll thoroughly enjoy because he's very briefed on the motorsports industry for sure. He is the president of the Canadian-American Tour, the American-Canadian Tour, if you will, and also one of the original founders of NASCAR North and also the Stock Car Connection, and I'm talking about Mr. Tom Curley, visiting with us from his offices up in Waterbury, Vermont here tonight on Sports Channel. Tom, welcome to Sports Channel and Track Talk.
Thank you, John. This is a change from being on the radio with you. I congratulate you. It's a great show. I've watched it up in Vermont, and I know a lot of our fans are delighted with what you're doing, and it certainly has gotten off to a rousing start. I've watched 2 or 3 of your shows and found them extremely informative and a lot of fun.
Okay, listen, we're going to be talking about a lot of late model racing here for sure, and I'm sure that some of our viewers on satellite around the country maybe have some questions for Tom Curley, because Tom is involved, as I established at the top of the show, in a sanction involving the American Speed Association out in the Midwest, and of course the All-Pro organization down south, and of course his own circuit, the American-Canadian Tour here in New England, and that of course is the Stock Car Connection. 2 shows have been run to date. We'll get Tom's feelings about that and a whole lot more. Tom, as we look at this 1987 season to date, how do you feel your Coors Tour, which is a traveling late model group for the viewers that are not familiar with it, how do you feel it's gone this far?
Well, I think you know, John, that we made some major changes this year. You know, we started the ACT sanctioning group a year ago and had a very successful inaugural year. And then this year we've really had quite a changeover because we had to go to some major modifications with our race cars in order to comply with Rex Robbins' American Speed Association group. And so we really started from scratch this year in terms of what we're doing. And I'm very, very pleased. We've had what I consider, at least regionally in New England, an enormously successful season so far. We're halfway through, and we start our second half this weekend up in Quebec City. But we're very, very happy. We have a very tight point race. We've got a great championship battle, and we've had 8 winners out of 10 races. So we think we've done a pretty good job. Our people are now beginning to learn a little more about these race cars. The first 2 or 3 races we had a little problem, but now they're starting to figure them out, and they seem to be enjoying the plastic cars, and I'm very happy with it.
Okay, I might add at this point that Tom is also the race director or promoter, if you will, of 2 speedways in Vermont, the Catamount Stadium in Milton, Vermont, and also the very exciting and popular Thunder Road Speedway in Barrie, Vermont. At this time, we're going to head up that way to an area that is very, very well briefed in late model racing, and I'm sure Mr. Curley's background and his organizations as well. Plattsburgh, New York is on the line with us. Good evening and welcome to the Track Talk Show here on Sports Channel. Hello. Good evening, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you today?
Good, and yourself?
Very good, very good.
Good.
Question I'd like to ask Mr. Curley is, what's going to happen with Catamount Stadium now that it's going to close this year?
Well, my understanding is that if you've been to Catamount this year, you've seen that the industrial park that they've developed is coming along pretty nicely, and I hope they give us enough time to get our last race in. They're really building some buildings up there, and that'll be gone. I think as many people up in northern New England, losing Catamount is kind of to us like losing Plainfield was for, or Norwood Arena was for years down here. They were kind of an old established facility, which you hate to see. Westboro, in fact, which is not too far from here. You hate to see the racetracks go, but I'm a positive thinker, and I've always felt that some good things will evolve out of those kind of adversities. So Catamount will be gone after this season, and we regret that.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your call. We appreciate it. Okay, 935-9266, area code 617. If you'd like to come on board here and talk motorsports with us, we've got Tom Curley, the president of the American Canadian Tour, on the air with us tonight. We're heading right back up to Tom's neck of the woods. Burlington, Vermont's on the line with us. Good evening. You're on the air and with Tom Curley at Sports Channel.
Hello, I'd like to talk to Tom Curley.
Go right ahead, sir.
Do you think they'll ever go back to the cars that they had last year, the bodies?
My guess is that the bodies that we were using a year ago, we probably will not go back to. I think that it was certainly an exercise and a risky one when we took the step this year. But I was talking to Steve Poulin, who's Beaver Dragons crew chief and team manager, the other day, and he told me an interesting statistic that the plastic bodies that we're using, he'd done a halfway survey, and it had cost the Beaver Dragon team exactly half of what it cost in terms of body repair and costs that are directly involved with that part of the operation at the halfway mark. And I know Jamie Obey was out practicing at Catamount a week or two ago, and he told me that he didn't want any part of those things in the beginning, but that he wouldn't trade them for anything now. He says they're easy to work with, and I think you'll see some modifications on the kind of plastic that you see us running right now over the next year or two. But I'm pretty happy with the results so far.
All right, thank you very much for your call up there in Burlington, Vermont. We'll continue on the phones in a moment. A couple of questions, Tom. In light of the comment or the question raised by the viewer a couple of moments ago about Catamount Stadium in Milton, Vermont, of course, this is a business partnership for yourself and Ken Squire, very well-known racing personality for sure, the anchor for CBS Motorsports coverage. You've also got Thunder Road, as we established. Will we see you fellows continue to operate Thunder Road? Do you have any other possibilities of maybe doing something else in Vermont due to the fact you're losing Catamount?
Well, Thunder Road, John, is an institution. I mean, that's 27 years old. It's a tradition in Vermont in the summer to go to Thunder Road on Thursday nights, and we've got a division we call the Flying Tigers, which are a little below a limited sportsman, but certainly above a street stock, which has just been phenomenally successful for us. So yes, Thunder Road will be around for a long time, and we'll continue to make some major improvements next year using some of Catamount's existing equipment. I've got a lease on the Senior Super Speedway for 6 years that I own, so we have another facility up in that region, and a good one, for some of our major events. I guess if I stay in the business long enough, and I don't have any real desire to leave it right now, that a goal of mine would be to create a new racetrack someday, but I think the situation has to be right, the timing has to be right, and certainly with what's going on now between my organization and the NASCAR North Oxford organization, you have to kind of let things sugar off a little bit and see which way things are going to fall. I really believe that you're going to see some major shuffling in motorsports in New England in the next 2 years. I think this industry works in cycles, and I think we've had an enormously successful upcycle. I see some leveling off right now, and I think we're kind of in a test and feel mode. I see some things happening with modifieds right now. I certainly, there are rumblings about the super speedway over in Maine. I think all of these things have to kind of get leveled off before you can make any kind of business decisions of that magnitude. It's very expensive to build facilities nowadays.
Okay, two major late model races have been run here in the last several days. Of course, the Oxford 250 this past Sunday night, won by Jamie Obey. And of course, the Busch Grand National North Series event run last night. It was a rain-shortened event down at the Stafford Springs Motor Speedway in Connecticut. That was won by Southern Invader Tommy Houston. Maybe you've got some questions, or maybe you want to pose some questions to Mr. Curley about the Oxford 250. He went this year as a race fan with the Bermudas and the Red Sox hat, not as Tom Curley, the co-promoter of a sanctioning body involved with the Oxford 250 this year. So maybe you've got some questions you may want to ask him about this year's 250. Let's go on the phones once again here at Track Talk. Again, our number is 935-9266, area code 617. We've got a line in Randolph, Massachusetts. Good evening. You're on the air here at Sports Channel.
Hi, Mr. Curley.
Yes.
I'm from Randolph, Mass.
That's good. That's good. Joey Carafa's country.
Yeah. Well, how come you let the bodies run now? How come you don't let the Buicks run?
Which Buicks are you referring to?
The kind Joey Carafa's run.
Well, because we're on a plastic body, and that's a sheet metal Buick that Joey runs.
Why don't you let sheet metal run?
Well, we made a major change in order to comply with the ASA type cars in order to put together this company called the Stock Car Connection, And our cars are quite a bit different now than what we were running a year ago, and that car that Joey's running is basically what he ran last year. We've made a changeover, and I'm really opposed to racing apples and oranges. I just never believed a whole lot in that. I think it's difficult enough in establishing rules to try and have parity, and I think when you start adding 3 and 4 and 5 types of divisions, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult for the competitors, and I think it's very difficult for the promoters. So that's really the reason. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the reason he's not racing, is that his car is really not the same kind of car that we run in our series.
All right, thank you very much for your call. Let's move to Harpswell, Maine. Good evening. You're on the air at Sports Channel and Track Talk.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Curley.
Good evening.
I know that you're probably pretty happy about the Oxford 250, Mr. Obie having won, having the Vermonter up there. And I was wondering, also that a NAT car won. I was wondering, what about this furor that they had with the NASCAR North cars, the metal against the plastic they had this year, the Oxford 250, there was a lot of concern about that. What was your feelings on that big controversy?
Well, you know, part of the uniqueness of the 250 is that there always seems to be either me into a confrontation with Bob Baer, or there's a confrontation between 2 drivers on the last lap or something, and you know, that's a tremendous event, and I think that there was some discussion about whether the ACT cars would be allowed, and they certainly did allow them in. There were, if what you're talking about is the difficulty over time trials, in my opinion, if the rules were established and they were laid out and everybody was aware and cognizant of those rules and the rules were violated, then I believe that the officials did the right thing. And because I'm a real stickler for that kind of activity. But I really still believe, and I would be a real hypocrite if I told you anything different, I think it's difficult on Dick McCabe and Joey Carafas and Bobby Dragon and Chuck Bound to ask them to race against Robbie Crouch and Jamie Obie and Ricky Craven against Tommy Houston and Jack Ingram and David Pearson's, Larry Pearson. I think what you've got here is you've got an apple, an orange, and a grapefruit, and I find that very difficult. If you want to sit down to a mixed fruit dinner, that's one thing, but if you want to go out and buy a dozen apples, then buy a dozen apples, and that's been, I've been a proponent of that kind of racing for years. I think it's very, very difficult, if in fact not impossible, to give everybody parity under those circumstances. So we didn't have a lot of our cars come over, and the reason our cars didn't come over, I think, was because they didn't feel that they'd be competitive. I think they were wrong in that now, and hindsight's wonderful. If we always could live by that, we'd be different people right now, but I'm just not a great proponent of that kind of racing. I think it's very, very difficult. I was delighted with the results. I think that you're going to see more changes in next year's 250. I got to tell you right now, I don't care whether you're Tom Curley at ACT or if you're Dick McCabe in Kennebunkport, Maine, there's not a northern Yankee that wasn't happy at the result of this year's 250, because where you have Dave Neon and Joey Carafas and Dick McCabe and all those northerners that slid into that top 10, that's 2 years in a row. I feel that I played a little part in that. You know, Dick McCabe and Carafas and those guys kind of came through a system that I had something to do with. So I was very proud of their efforts. I thought they had a tremendous day at the 250. I do feel that you'll see more changes in another year.
All right, 935-9266 is our telephone number here in Massachusetts, area code 617 at Sports Channel here on Track Talk. My name is John Spence, and I've got the president of the Coors Store, Mr. Tom Curley, in studio with us tonight. Right now we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll come back and take more of your phone calls here on Sports Channel, so stay with us.
Listen up, all you Johnny Most imitators and impersonators, because it's time to start practicing for Sports Channel's 3rd annual Johnny Most Sound-Alike contest. SportsChannel will again be holding regional tryouts throughout New England, with winners advancing to the finals to be held in Boston in the fall. So don't fiddle and diddle. Get to work on your Johnny Most imitation and have some fun.
Hi, this is Johnny Most. Join SportsChannel and Cape Cod Cablevision for the 3rd annual Johnny Most Sound-Alike Contest, Tuesday, July 21st, 9 p.m. at the Tara Hyannis Hotel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fran Healy. You know, with the first pitch, hit, and great play of the season under our belt, the race for the pennant is in full swing. And you can keep up with all the races on the Pennant Chase. So join me for an action-packed and often humorous look at all the excitement from around the leagues every week, all season long. That's the Pennant Chase, right here on SportsChannel.
The world is full of kids who need a grown-up for a friend. Become a big brother or big sister, because little people need big people. Like you.
Sure do. Is love sweet? There are thousands of youngsters, especially black and Hispanic children, waiting for an adult like you to call. So look up Big Brothers, Big Sisters in the phone book today, or call 1-800-852-5000 to have the nearest agency contact you.
All right, we're back here at Track Talk on Sports Channel. Motorsports every Wednesday night, 8 to 9 o'clock. And don't forget you can talk all sports on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock with the legendary voice of the Boston Celtics, Mr. Johnny Most. Right now, let's go back on the telephones to Nashua, New Hampshire. Good evening. You're on the air here, talking motorsports on Track Talk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Curley.
Yes.
I have a two-part question for you. First one is, do you feel this year there was a lack of cars compared to last year for the 250? And does it have anything to do with, there's 3 types of cars that race there: Outlaws, the Busch Tour, and now the ACT. Don't you feel if the rules were the same for all 3, that there'd be more cars, and it seems that everybody would be happy? It seems like guys like Dave Dion will run with ACT if he's happy with some rules. He'll run with the Tour if he's happy with their rules. But if they were all ran together, like they have in previous years, everybody would be happy. And I was just wondering how you felt about that.
Well, first of all, there were 5 kinds of cars, not 3. You have basically an open competition car, and let's say Jeffrey Stevens falls into that category. You had a Busch Southern Grand National type car, and all of the Busch Southern drivers, plus Bobby Dragon and Chuck Bown and Dick McCabe and Joey Carafas fell into that category. Then you had old Coors Tour cars from a year ago, which were our old cars. Then you had Saturday night cars that Leland Kangas and Billy Clark fell under. And then you had ACT cars, which Robbie Crouch and Ricky Craven and Barney McRae and your winner, Jamie Obie, fell under. So that goes back to my previous statement. That's 5 kinds of cars. And I know how hard it is, because I've worked at it for 10 years. I know how difficult it is to try to make parity if you're only dealing with 1 set of rules for 1 set of cars. I know that's very difficult. It's very hard to keep track of what everybody's doing on the racetrack with 1 set. Now, if you put that into the formula, that there are going to be 5 sets, and I'll tell you, Dave Dion's great argument, and it's a good argument, is that if you look at that situation in terms of dollars, the difference in dollars between a couple of those cars and a couple of others. Example, our cars, ACT cars, and Busch Southern Grand National cars are extremely expensive, and they really are expensive. Now, you can modify our cars a little bit and get less expensive, but you can certainly take a Saturday night car that runs at Oxford on a Saturday night, and because it's Oxford, it's a unique situation, and they can make some parity out of that. I think you're looking at a phenomenon. I think that race is tremendously successful. They had a lot of cars. There were 97 entries in that race, so you can't say that there weren't a lot of cars. I think they had a very high-quality starting field of 44 cars, so you can't fault that. And there were tremendous numbers of people that attended it and paid $30, so you can't fault that. Would it work somewhere else? I would question that. I think the answer to your question is you're absolutely right on. If you put that kind of a system into a Stafford or a Thompson or to a Lee Speedway, I question whether it would work as successfully as Bob Bear's 250 has worked. It certainly works there, and I don't think you're going to see too many changes in the future.
Second question is, do you think that it would be
year, and there were 6 heats. Out of the 6 heats, they took only 3, and almost 20 cars in heat. Now, if you were Larry Pearson or a couple of the other Southern boys coming all this way, and starting in the back, which most of them did, wouldn't it be a little more fair to take 6 instead of having 3?
Well, you know, I'm not going to, Lord knows, I'm not going to set up the system for the Oxford 250. I think there are, if you want my personal opinion, I think there are too many provisional guarantees. I don't think that's good racing. I don't think Jack Ingram, I don't think there were 8 provisionals that were put into that race. I think that's too many, personally. I think have a couple of promoters' options. I'm all for that. I think that's proper. I think 8 are too many. I think that by the sheer numbers that you have, you need to get you really need to sift and sort that kind of an event out in order to make it fair. They drew for their they drew for their starting spots, and I don't have any qualms about where somebody starts. If Robbie Crouch had drawn last in his heat and started 14th instead of outside pole in his heat, in my opinion, he still would have won the race. And I believe that Dick McCabe, if he'd drawn last instead of outside pole, he still would have qualified for the event, because I do think the cream rises to the top.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned Robbie. Thank you for your call. I'm glad that Tom mentioned Robbie Crouch, because he is going to be in studio with us the latter part of August here at Sports Channel. Back on the phone, Portland, Maine is with us. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, good evening, John. Thanks for such a great program.
Thank you.
I've got a question for Tom. Tom, now on the tour, your tech man is now a crew chief on one of the teams. Do you think that is going to cause a problem with the other teams, where the tech man has certain advantages of looking over and checking everybody else's car for different setups? Now, it doesn't seem to be good politics or business to mix two. What are your feelings on that?
Well, I think you have to look at it in 2 ways. Number one, if somebody, there's only so much you can do to the race cars, and you know, I think we get a little bit too hung up with somebody's tricked this up and somebody's got this. I mean, the race cars are pretty basic. The geometry of the race cars is pretty basic, and if everybody's playing on the same field, now there are certain things that one crew chief will do to make, certainly Dick Lyons will do something to make Robbie Crouch's car, and that chemistry of Crouch being such an extraordinary racer, along with what Lyons does, that'll make that car win more often perhaps than somebody else. But I'm not sure that everybody doesn't have an equal opportunity to see what everyone else has. You can go out and buy a car from any one of these teams if you get the right money, and if you get that paranoid that you need to see what somebody else is doing, it may cause some concern. But we're still a hobby basically up here. We're not, you know, we don't have a lot of professional racers. We still do it on the weekend, and I'm not sure that you can take somebody's livelihood away. If you take a car builder, I don't know of anybody better for a technical inspector than a car builder, somebody that understands 100% of what this is about. And when you complement that by our tech inspector, having all that knowledge of being in what was formerly Winston Cup racing at one time, and certainly a great knowledge of the business, I think that certainly outweighs any of the aggravation that we may encompass because we have a tech inspector that happens to be working on some of the other race cars.
All right, sir, listen, thank you very much for your phone call. 935-9266, area code 617. If you'd like to ask Tom Curley a question, feel free to give us a call here. Tom, I'm sure you've been asked this question several times. It's a question that has surfaced on many occasions on my radio show. Is there room for 2 major late model sanctions in New England?
I think it depends on what week we're talking about. You know, there are times, John, that I really felt that there were this year, and then there have been times when I honestly have felt that both of us aren't going to make it. We don't have certainly the clout that a NASCAR has. I mean, we're just a little northern New England-based company that we think have done a reasonably good job over 8 or 10 years putting together late model, you know, racing. I'm not sure that that really is the question. I think what the question is the sport itself and what's happening to the sport. I see some awfully, I'm not even going to say disturbing changes, but I'll say interesting changes. weekly racing, I think, has a real fight. I think they've. I don't see a lot of successful weekly race plants at the level that you and I have become accustomed to. I think there's a big change going over here. You can go to a Thunder Road or a Beach Ridge, okay, and you can see probably Beach Ridge runs as good a weekly show now, and I'm unfamiliar with some of the southern southern New England tracks, Riverside Park, and I guess pardon me, Waterford, Connecticut, maybe, but look at Stafford right now. I mean, all I hear and read about is that Stafford's weekly show is not doing what they want it to do. They're going through that cycle I talked about earlier. I'm real concerned about what's going to happen to our sport. I think, you know, I'm very cognizant of the cost factor in this thing, and I'm as guilty as any other promoter. I think we've gotten ourselves a little out of shape. You know, there's only a point where a fan will pay so much. Now, they'll pay $30 to go see an Oxford 250, but what have you done to that fan as far as your weekly racing goes for the next week or two? Have you taken his entertainment dollar and buried it because of that major event for a week or two? I'm concerned about that.
I think that there's reason to be, Tom, because I have found on many occasions in that radio show, we get a lot of telephone calls with people that will, say, for example, scrap the plans for the Saturday night racing show and make their plans to go to, say, a Coors Tour event, to the Oxford 250, maybe out to the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Show in Lebanon Valley, or maybe to the Star Classic or to the Oswego Classic, but will not go to a regular Saturday night show for 4 or 5 weeks because they are putting their money aside to go to that major event that's coming up on the calendar. And I think, yes, there is room for concern in New England.
You know, all over the country, though, John, I mean, I see things happening. I see the less expensive divisions flourishing. I mean, car counts are enormous. I mean, take a Hudson. I mean, you know, just cars, you got more cars, you know what to do with. And I think that the quality, all right, there's only so much quality when you get to that upper level of racing, and that's where I think I have to be concerned. I'm blessed. I've got great racetracks. I've got New England racetracks, Red McDonald's Lee, and Ralph Cusack's Beach Ridge, my own little Thunder Road, Claremont, New Hampshire. We had a good event over in Briar. That's a nice mix as far as our northern New England goes. And then, of course, my real strength and stronghold is up in Canada. We're very, very strong in Canada. So I think I have very good vibes about us. I'm very high on our Stock Car Connection project. It certainly hasn't done everything I've wanted to do so far, but I still believe in the concept. I still believe that big-time race for our racers will be enough for their palates, and then I can get back and keep this thing under control as far as a regional thing. I'm not sure that I'd want to be racing, 20 races at San Air or Dover or Rockingham or Milwaukee.
I'd like to get into that Stock Car Connection situation in a few minutes. We have a call on the line from Gorham, Maine, though, and going out to Michigan. Let's take Gorham first. Good evening. You're on the air at SportsChannel.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Curley a question about when the ACT Tour comes to Beach Ridge Speedway, and why our late models can't run like with theirs without making any changes. Because after all, we do have smaller motors, and we'd like to compete with them. We have Goodyear tires and such, and we are a little bit lighter on weight, but we have a lot less power. And, I think we'd like to compete with them guys just like we do.
I think the real reason is because in the first two occasions that we've gone to Beach Ridge, you've almost beaten us both times. And you've almost beaten us at those weight penalties that we put on you. Now, certainly some of that is due to the fact that it's your racetrack, and you certainly know how to get around that racetrack because it is your home facility. I think that we've made tremendous guesses, and that's all it really is in this business when you get to that point, in terms of that weight penalty. Because I mean, Bud Bilodeau and Bobby Randall and a few of those guys are highly competitive with us. They start at the rear of the pack because that happens to be our handicap system, and they start back there with our best. And at the end of the race, if they haven't broken or crashed, both occasions that we've been there, they've been top 10 finishers. And in fact, I believe one of them was top 3 last time, and I'm not unhappy right now with those rules. We welcome the Beach Ridge cars. We had a great show up there, and that's been one format that seems to have worked for us, similar to what happens at the old Oxford Opens, if you'll recall, when the Saturday night cars raced against the old Coors Tour. I like that format for Beach Ridge, and it seems to have worked, and we've welcomed having the Beach Ridge racers come with us. But it's, again, that hard problem of putting rules together that work for both of us.
All right, let's go out to Grand Rapids, Michigan. We got a call coming in from Michigan. Hello, you're on Sports Channel and Track Talk with Tom Curley.
Mr. Curley, I'm calling from Grand Rapids, and up here I get to see like Butch Miller, Mike Eddy, and Bob Seneca.
Well, we got to see him at Cincinnati, too.
What I would like to know is the ACT Tour ever going to run on like Michigan International? I've seen, you know, these guys around here run, but I'd like to see the ACT Tour or the Stock Car Connection. Will they ever get on a major track like that?
I think that part of the master plan would be that type facility is certainly down the road as we look at the Stock Car Connection. I think if you have followed the first two events, one at Sanair and the second one at Cincinnati, and now we're getting ready to go to Milwaukee on that mile track in August, we've got some catching up to do with these race cars. You know, we've raced at Dover for about 4 years, and so we have some experience on mile tracks, and certainly up at Sanair we have some experience. So the idea of going to a Michigan is certainly interesting to us, but we're really in a learning process with your ASA people as far as trying to get competitive with them. And we know it's not going to happen overnight, but we have some dedicated race teams, and we look forward to the day that we could go to a Michigan with some of the ASA and ACT and All-Pro cars and put on a kind of a show like that. We're looking forward to that, yes.
I hope you make it, because I'm really looking forward to see that. I watched the race up at Sanair, and that was absolutely fantastic.
Well, I hope you saw the one at Cincinnati, because it was equally as good, and we're very, very excited about Milwaukee. We think we're going to finally turn the corner at Milwaukee. We've changed a couple of formats and taken some guaranteed spots away, and we're going to let more people in. So we're very excited about it, and we've enjoyed racing with your people. I'll tell you an interesting thing while you're there. I think some of the viewers would find this interesting. We raced at Cincinnati on a half mile, and we raced Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had 43 or 44 race cars out there, and not one single car went up on a record in 3 days.
That's amazing.
Isn't that remarkable?
How did that happen?
Well, we just had great racing, and I was very, very impressed with your Mike Eddies and your Butch Millers. We've enjoyed meeting them and associating with them, and we're looking for some really fun things down the road.
All right, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate your call from Michigan. Thank you much. 935-9266, area code 617. Let's go to New Hampshire. Good evening. You're on Sports Channel.
Yeah, I got a question for Tom.
Sure.
Tom, what do you think of scheduling more shows with the Pro 4 Modifieds of Dan Meservey with you guys?
Well, we've got quite a few shows with them now. We've got we had two at Lee this year, and we had the one at Briar that we booked. And last year we booked them up at Sanair with us, and there's been some discussion and dialogue now about perhaps bringing them up into Catamount for our final race up there at the New England 300 on September 20th. So Danny's a tremendous individual who's worked very, very hard on behalf of that division, and wherever we can do it, we like to do it simply because I think it's good racing. And certainly that's a division that is very New England oriented and gives us a little bit of a lift down in here in Southern New England.
Yeah, we'd like to run more shows with you people. You know, I have a car, and I've been to Briar with you. And
you run a Pro 4 Modified?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And we really enjoy racing with you guys, and we'd like to have some more shows with you.
Well, tell Danny to keep bugging me.
We will.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 935-9266, area code 617. We invite you to call us here at Sports Channel on Track Talk. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Tom to assess the first two Stock Car Connection events at Sanair and Cincinnati, so stay with us.
Mickey Mantle, three parts of the Yankee dynasty that have dominated baseball through the years. Each week, host Mel Allen tracks the trials and tribulations of baseball's Bronx Bombers as they go head-to-head with the best competition in the American League. There's interviews, features, and stories from behind the scenes of one of baseball's most successful and controversial franchises. A comprehensive look at New York Yankees baseball, coming your way each week on Sports Channel.
Down through the years, the big games, the special games, always seem to live on in your memory. The excitement of baseball. It doesn't end when the game ends, and neither does your need to know. That's why so many baseball fans read the Sporting News, America's sports authority for over 100 years. The Sporting News gives you complete, in-depth coverage by more than 40 staff writers reporting right from the scene of the action. The teams, the stars, the strategies, the stats and standings, the pulse-pounding play-by-play excitement. Everything you want, you'll find right here in the Sporting News. It's great reading, and now you can get in on a great half-price offer. Grab a pencil quick, and here's a friend with all the details.
Call now and get 40 issues of the Sporting News for 4 easy payments of $5.45. You'll also get special preview issues at no extra cost. So call now toll-free, 1-800-872-7100. 7100.
Hamilton and Ron Bouchard, two very popular and successful races from the Bay State of Massachusetts. 935-9266, area code 617. Tom, let's look at the first two events, Senair and Cincinnati. Stock Car Connection. A lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of planning went into the Stock Car Connection, a lot of hype. How do you look at these first two events today? You were just mentioning to the viewer Milwaukee's on the calendar next. You're looking for bigger and better things. How do you look at Senair?
Well, Senair was certainly an education for me. I had never worked so hard on anything in my life, certainly not in motorsports. And you're absolutely right. We spent a year and a half. We spent a tremendous amount of money. I think everybody, and certainly New England and Eastern Canada, was aware of that event. And we didn't get the turnout that we wanted. We had a less than satisfactory gate by a long shot. The one thing that came out of Senair, though, was that we delivered what we said we wanted to try to do. We went out, we said we're going to pay a great big purse. And quite frankly, you know, one of the lessons that I learned is that in copying, a lot of that format was Bob Baer's creation. And what I forgot is that it took him 8, 9, 10 years before he got it to the level that it was as successful as it is today. And what I had hoped is that we could ride in on the coattails of that concept. But we did come out of Senair with some real great hopes, and I think that we then decided, after we looked at everything, wait a minute, we brought in 3 divisions, some from the South, some from the Midwest, and our own division. We had a tremendous race event. As a race event, even though you're biased ACT, if you're from this neck of the woods, it was a tremendous race event. Those ASA guys really raced the daylights out of those cars, and they were very, very professional, and we enjoyed that. And there was some relationships established. So we went on to Cincinnati. We went on with the idea that this is a good concept, let's modify it, let's do what we have to. We talked to all of our race teams, and we said, guys, this is a real chance for you. And it is a chance. It's a chance for short track race drivers to get some major events, some major television, some major recognition, and I think that's going to be very, very important as we look down the road. So the Stock Car Connection went to Cincinnati, and again had a very, very good race event. But we didn't have the car count that we wanted, and we certainly didn't have the fan count again. So we're still working on problems, but I've looked at it this way, John. It's very simple. If that was automatic, and if it were as easy as it might appear to be, we oversold it. I mean, I oversold it to myself, I oversold it to the fans, I oversold it to my race teams. But if it was real simple, everybody'd be doing it. It's not easy, it's difficult work, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it a challenge, and I believe that the concept is strong enough that we want to continue with that, and we'll head right into next year.
We'll go back on the phone in a moment. Obviously, some fine-tuning is going to need to be of the order here, but do you find that it just might be tough to be running a series back here, as well as, you know, this major undertaking here?
No, that's not...
Is Tom Curley spreading himself too thin?
No. And I've been accused of that a lot, with 2 racetracks and a tour and this and that. No, absolutely not. I don't believe that's the problem. I believe the problem is much deeper than that, and I think that we're addressing those problems. I don't think that this country was ready yet for Jamie Obie and Robbie Crouch at Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That doesn't mean a lot. Quite frankly, for you and I, Butch Miller and Dick Trickle mean a whole lot. Right. But to the general consensus of the public, they didn't sell enough tickets when they came this way. and our people didn't do enough support in terms of their selling the tickets. So we've got that to work through. We think these television shows are going to be very, very important for our race teams, and they're going to be very, very important as we go along. I'm high on it. I still think it's the best concept for short track people in this country, and I'll tell you, we're going to start proving that, I believe, in Milwaukee, and I think we'll go to Nazareth with a super show down at Roger Penske's new track, and then I think you'll find us cap the whole year off at Nashville with a tremendous success, and that'll give us a lift into 1988.
All right, Tom, let's go back on the telephone. Scarborough, Maine's on the line with us right now. Good evening and welcome to the Track Talk show on Sports Channel.
Good evening. I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent show here up in New England.
Thank you.
And I have a couple questions for Tom.
Sure.
Tom, was the car that Jamie Obie drove a steel body car or a plastic car?
Yeah, it was. It was. That was a steel-bodied. That was his last year's race course tour race car. That he told me when he called me last week. I said, "What are you going to run over there?" And he said, "Well," he said, "We parked it after Seekonk last year." And he said, "Honest, we haven't done a single thing, but we're going to pull it out." And that's exactly the car he drove. You're very observant.
Okay. And earlier on, you said that you didn't disagree with the drawing when you mix the cars together, the positions. How come when you go to a track like Beechers Speedway, you run them on the handicap system, but you let the Beechers cars run, and they have to start to the back? Doesn't that automatically handicap them?
No, because we draw for qualifying spots. In other words, what we do is different. At Oxford, you draw for qualifying spots, and where you finish in your race is where you start your feature. With our system, we draw for qualifying spots so that everybody has an equal shot, and then we go to a handicap system where we start our best drivers out back and our non-handicap drivers out back, and we think we provide a little better racing that way. Instead of putting a Robbie Crouch up on the pole, we try to start him out back and make him work his way through the pack and give some of the other people who are new to the business that are ACT regulars who have established a handicap the benefit of at least starting up front for some laps before those big guns shake loose. And I think it makes that's one reason we have such a successful series.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you for your call. We appreciate it here at Sports Channel. Okay, we got open lines here, 935-9266, area code 617. A couple of things I wanted to mention here before we continue talking with Tom is if you missed the Trackside New England Racing Magazine show last night, which, by the way, airs every Tuesday night at 8:30. It's a look back at the top stories in motorsports, looking back at the past weekend's top stories in New England motorsports. It airs every Tuesday night at 8:30. It is going to be repeated again tonight at 10:30, okay? 10:30 tonight, in case you missed it last night. And, of course, that'll be looking back at the Oxford 250 and all the top racing stories from this past weekend. Portland, Maine is on the line with us right now. Good evening. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Tom, during the winter, the talk was, maybe some of it generated by yourself, that you were going to run a pure show on your tour and that NASCAR was going to have a mix of all kinds of stuff running on that side. And that could be one of their major weaknesses. Now, as it turns out, we're almost halfway in the season, and NASCAR has used the option to run some pro stocks only once, and that was at Seekonk. And everywhere else, they've gone with your old cars, basically, and some others thrown in. Like at Star, there was 29 cars, and there was about maybe 18 from last year's Coors Tour. Everywhere else, they've been running in the 20s. And now at the halfway mark, it seems that they've gone in that direction, and now you're talking about opening up your rules, which I think is somewhat of a mistake. Isn't that kind of a flip-flop, and doesn't it do an injustice to somebody, say, like this guy Poirier that came down from, I forget where it was, Canada, and joined your group during that swing Thunder Road in Catamount that weekend? And doesn't it open the door, too, for something like that thing that won the race at Wiscasset? In other words, I don't think that's what you necessarily wanted. Why are you doing it?
Well, I'll tell you where I'm coming from on this. I believe that one of the problems that we're involved in New England racing right now is the pro stock division. I think the pro stock division has so many different sets of rules and so many different standards that there's not going to be the opportunity, first of all, for us to recruit out of that pro stock ranks and get them involved in our series. And I'm not saying that somebody for full-time or whatever. But I do think that there's a real need to unify pro stock rules throughout New England. I think that a guy that runs at Monadnock on a Friday night and then has to change his car or change a motor or change this and that in order to race on a Saturday night at another track is at a real disadvantage in terms of his race program. And I think if you can get some consistency with a set of rules, and because our cars are adaptable, in other words, our basic geometry and our basic cars are pretty adaptable to a pro stock type car, we think we need to make a positive move in that direction. And I don't think it's going to hurt us. What I'm trying to do is say, instead of going to a Beach Ridge, or instead of going to with one set of amended rules, and then going to a Wiscasset with another type set of amended rules, or going to an Ottawa with another type set of amended rules, let's come out with an optional rule. And I don't see it any different than what we're doing with our motors. We have a V6 option, we have a V8 option right now on our tour. And I don't see that if you let in a 10.5 compression motor with steel heads, which is basically what a pro stock is, in as an option, as long as they conform with your basic geometry of heights, tread widths, I don't think that we're going to hurt ourselves. What I really am hoping is that we're going to get more recruitment into our system so that we'll get more race teams joining us. I still think that the big question has to be when you change from an old Coors Tour car to a Busch Grand National Southern car. That's major modification. That's major modification. That hasn't happened yet because under their rules they're not required to do that. When that happens, then I think we'll have a much better barometer as far as what that division is going to offer New England racing. And until they make that major change, we're not going to know. We've already made it with the majority of our people. And I think I understand what you're saying. And yeah, in some ways it is a little unfair to a guy that's gone the whole distance. By the same token, we're in a survival mode here. We need to keep our series going, and we certainly need to give some reasons why some people will want to join our series and race 5 times or 8 times or whatever they may choose to do in their program.
All right, listen, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. All right. 935-9266, area code 617 here at Sports Channel here in Massachusetts. The name is TrackTalk. Motorsports is our game here. We're going to take another commercial break, come back and continue to talk to the president of the Coors Tour, Tom Curley, when we continue. Stay with
us. Celtics fans rejoice. Now you can relive the excitement of this past season with Sports Channel's Celtic Encore, a show which features replays of top Celtics games from the regular season right through the playoffs. It's the only way to keep in touch with Bird and Company all summer long. And when the heat of the summer becomes unbearable, turn to the ice for Whalers Encore, as Sports Channel replays some of the Hartford Whalers' most explosive games from the 1986-87 season. That's Whalers Encore Saturdays at 8 and Celtics Encore Sundays at 8, only on Sports Channel.
Driving in hot weather and heavy traffic puts particular strain on a car's engine, especially if the air conditioner is used. Unless you prepare your car to stand up to the strain, you and your car could wind up steaming. To prevent this, take several simple precautionary steps. Change your permanent coolant antifreeze. Permanent means for all seasons, not forever. It should be replaced once a year with an antifreeze coolant recommended in your owner's manual. All 4 U.S. automakers have approved the AluGuard formula, which protects metals, including the aluminum used in today's cars. This formula is found in over 70 brands of antifreeze coolant. An easy pour, no-spill jug will help you get it inside the radiator. Another major worry is your battery. Use baking soda to remove terminal corrosion that would impede the flow of current. Remember that an air conditioner puts heavy demand on the battery. With the motor off, check fan belts to be sure they're not cracked and are tight enough to turn the alternator at full charging speed. The belt should depress about ½ inch.
All right, we're back. Final break there, final few minutes here. 935-9266, area code 617. Next week, I'm going to have in studio with me a motorsports writer, and he is Chris Romano, very well-known writer with the Speedway scene, the gentleman that has co-hosted the Speedline radio show in Lawrence, Massachusetts with me in the past, and I'm going to be talking about racing in general throughout all of New England. And looking ahead on the calendar, in August, we're going to have Robbie Crouch, the defending Coors Tour champion, coming in studio just ahead of that special event happening at the Lee, New Hampshire Speedway. Westbrook, Maine. Good evening and welcome to Sports Channel. You're on the air with Tom Curley.
Yes, I have a question for Tom.
Sure.
This past weekend with the 250, Bobby Cahan won the non-qualifiers race, which enabled him to go to the actual 250. Why did Dick Bear use the promoter's option to put the cars he put in the race in front of Bobby Cahan and make him start at the rear of the pack?
I didn't think that he did. I thought Bobby started in front of those 8 provisionals, but I may be wrong on that. And I was sitting right in that section of the grandstand at the lineup, and I thought Bobby was. Incidentally, I thought he drove a great 250 because I watched him, and when he got his lap back, he went down early, and then he got his lap back when something happened. I guess Morgan Shepherd blew up or whatever, and then Gahan got his lap back, and he was in the hunt. I thought he did a good job, but I didn't think he started out back. I thought he started in front of the provisionals, but I may be wrong on that.
Yeah, he started dead last.
Well, I don't have an answer for that.
Next question, how do you feel about the disqualification of the 6 time trialers by 1/16 of an inch?
Well, I think that's, that's a 1/16 of an inch or a half an inch or whatever. I feel that, I really do feel that if the rules were posted in advance and everybody knew what the rules were and they came across the post-inspection and they were off weight or off height or whatever they were off, then in my opinion they should have been disqualified. I wasn't there at the inspection. I don't know if it was a 16th. I know there was a lot of rumors that some people got through and some didn't. But certainly if you're looking at it in terms of my organization, ACT, with Mike Barry and Robbie Crouch, and Jeffrey Stevens, you had Dick McCabe in there as well, and he certainly is not part of our organization. And you also, I think, had a Southerner, Mike Alexander. So I think that what they did is Dick, I guess, told somebody that he was kind of on the tail end of the line, and after they got done jamming it under Robbie's car and jamming it around on some of ours, he just kind of was victimized by being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
All right.
Well, I know for a fact that Dick McCabe had just had put brand new springs in that car for the race, and 1/16 of an inch can come from settling the car from one lap around the track. So they shouldn't have penalized him by making him run a heat race for 1/16 of an inch.
All I can tell you is tech inspection's tough.
Everybody loves the tech inspector. We got to move along, sir. We only got a few minutes left. Ipswich, Mass is on the line with us. Hello.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to, congratulate you on the great show. You got the greatest motorsports show on any of the TV stations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And a couple of things for Tom. Losing Catamount Stadium, is there any possibility locally there of picking any other track up like Devil's Bowl and West Haven or anything over Plattsburgh International Raceway at all to add to your tracks?
Well, CJ has asked me for years to go down to Albany, Saratoga, which is kind of interesting because most of you Massachusetts guys will remember that Donnie McTavish and Hamilton and that whole crowd raced for years and years at Albany, Saratoga.
Right.
He's threatened each year to take the dirt off and let us go down and run a show in the fall. And usually CJ, if he gets some wacky idea, he'll do it. So that possibility exists. And I keep hearing rumors about Plattsburgh, and rumors are in this business are a part of the business, and I realize that, but there may be some interesting things happening in Plattsburgh over the next year.
That's very good. I'd also like to, make sure that you take care of Dave Moody. He's an excellent spokesman for you, and he does an excellent job in promotions, and I hope you can do something for him. He does a real good job.
Thank you. I didn't know he had an agent.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Lindenville, Vermont. Good evening and welcome to the Sports Channel Track Talk Show.
Yes, good evening, Tom. I've been a follower of the Tour for quite a few years, and I hit about every race in New England this year. I've tried to anyway. And I think in the face of adversity, you've done a very good job losing some big names like Stub Fadden and Bob Dragon, a few others. And I think you've done a remarkably well job of doing that. And I've hit every Thursday night show at Thunder Road this year and in the past, and I absolutely love the Flying Tigers and the Street Stock.
Well, that's Tiger heaven.
That's for sure. Tom, the biggest question I have is there's been rumors in the papers up in this part of the country, in the Burlington Free Press mostly, that there is a new speedway going in. I think it was mentioned last year. Is there any plans for putting a new speedway in after Catamount closes?
The only new speedway that I have heard about is the Oxford Speedway. As far as our plans, I said earlier, we have to get some things sugared off here and see where we all stand. I think the Stock Car Connection needs to get reestablished. I think that in Vermont, we certainly have got a schedule. In fact, I've got a schedule for '88 all tentatively done right now, and you know, it'll be similar to what this year is, less Catamount, which meant that we had to fill a few other places. We've taken the steps of leasing Senair for the next 5 or 6 years so that we at least have that facility available to us as we need it. As far as in the immediate future, I would say no. I certainly think that there's a file on a new speedway. It's something that could be of interest down the road, but I would be remiss in telling you that it is something that I'm going home tonight and get to work on. It's not in the works for the immediate future.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, Norton, Massachusetts on the line. Good evening and welcome to Track Talk with Tom Curley. Hello.
Hello, Tom. Back at the Bryan Motorsports Park, you ran the Pro 4 NEMA Series with you. Is there a possibility of you bringing those people back with you for some any other racing?
I think we better get Meserve in here.
Yeah, Meserve ought to be the one behind the desk here instead of me. We've enjoyed the Pro 4s. I don't know if you were with us when we were up at Montreal a year ago, but they raced with us up at Senair, and we've got another show with them at Lee on August 30th when we run that big 200 down at Red McDonald's place. We've enjoyed our association. They run good races. They're competitive, and we've never had any hassles. So I would say that the opportunity certainly of grouping up with them on a number of occasions is better and better. We probably do we did 1 last year, 4 this year, and who knows what next year will bring.
Well, I hope next year will become even bigger and better because, as you probably know, the Seekonk Speedway has now dropped the mini-modified division, and there'll probably be between 30 to 40 cars, if not at the end of this season, to next season. So I think the competition is going to be unbelievable with that many amount of cars. I think the 2 tours could get together and put on a great show with the full-body cars and the open-wheel bodies.
Sir, we have run out of time. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. Tom, there's a lot more stuff we could get into on the tour and the Stock Car Connection and racing in general, but you certainly have enlightened, I'm sure, our viewers about a lot of things, about late model racing here in New England in particular, and also your tour and the Stock Car Connection. And you've been in the racing game for over 25 years now, a ranking racing official for 10. Love to see you around for another 25. You've done a great job with the Coors Tour, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us here at Sports Channel for making the long trek down here from northern Vermont and partaking in the last hour with us.
Thank you, John, and thank all your guests and all the viewers. I agree with them. This is a great show, and it was much needed, and I've enjoyed it, and hope everyone keeps calling you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Coming up next week, we're going to have, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, motorsports rider Chris Romano from Speedway.
Informed by my pits exactly what they were running and what I was running for times. And I started to head to the outside. My nose was pushing pretty bad, and as it happened, we cut down a right front tire, and I was able to just hang on and finish third. And, I was pleased that it went down to 9 pounds in it, and it was just enough so that I was able to continue racing and come up with a third-place finish.
With the purse at $202,000, will this third-place finish be more money than your first and second-place Oxford 250 finishes?
It'll definitely be more money than my first-place Oxford 250 finish. That was $4,500, but and I know we're in for a lot more money than that, but I don't know how it's going to compare to my second-place finish, because there's quite a bit of money for second. It should be close. This is 2 years later, and the purse just keeps growing and growing and growing, as do the stands and the amount of people that come out here for this race. It's turned into quite an event. I can't believe how big it's gotten since the inaugural event that I'd won back in '74.
Second place went to 2-time winner Dave Dion.
David, second place in the 1987 Oxford 250. How do you feel about it?
Got to feel pretty good, you know. Anytime you can get in the top 3 or the top 5, you got to be happy with it. You know, we got caught up in traffic a lot and spent too much time in the traffic, I guess. You know, I never really got made the charge when I should have, I guess.
Was it tires, or was it just you being tired, or was it just the race the way it went?
I was getting loose. I was running with Joey a lot, and he was loose, and we were both trying to save our tires. And, you know, we figured we'd get another caution. I had no idea that the race was, you know, that far along. I was figuring we were about 170 laps or so I figured it was still plenty of time to go in and get tires and really run. But when when I found out there was only 20-something to go, then of course we had to stay with those tires.
Okay, this is your 12th top 10 Oxford 250 finish. Do you think this will bring you to the top of the money winners heap finally?
I think we're there. I think we're there. Robbie was leading, and he finished behind us. And geez, I don't know who else is on that list. Dick McCabe was up there pretty good, but he finished behind us. So, yeah, we should be the money leader right now. Finally made it.
Okay. Late in the race, you get into second place. Was that all of it, or was there any more?
Well, I wasn't going to close that distance. You know, it took me quite a while to get by Joey and Dick, and I think that, you know, the car pushed just a little bit, and it would have been dumb to really, you know, spin the car out just trying to run faster than it wanted to run. So we just, you know, just stayed there, and we were happy with second.
And the winner of the race, well, it was James Obey. And we must apologize for some video problems with this interview, but let's go to James Obey now.
Jamie, over the last couple of months, there's been a great deal of concern about how the Course Tour cars would be treated if they came to the Oxford 250. Did you even imagine in your wildest dreams that you could win tonight?
Well, yeah, we did, as a matter of fact. We came pretty well prepared. We had a car that we ran real successful last year on all these tour races over here and, you know, all around New England, and we felt we had a pretty good shot at winning a race. And fortunately, everything worked out. The crew worked super, and it paid off for us.
At what point in the race did you feel that you could win the race?
After we made a pit stop and we went a ways farther, I guess, I realized there probably wasn't going to be a lot of yellows, and you know, we had a good idea that we were in the top three somewheres, and then I started running Billy down. I didn't see anybody else there, and I thought probably if he had to go in to pit, we'd be in real great shape, and that's how it turned out. Okay. Is this the biggest payday of your career? Yeah, absolutely. It's a great win. It's our first win at Oxford, and couldn't come any better than winning the Oxford 250 for sure. Okay. How about your tour leader, Tom Curley? He was here as a spectator today. Did he tell you what he thought about your performance? He thought it was great. You know, we represent the ACT tour, and it's you know, that's a great tour, and we're currently leading there now, and hopefully we'll take the championship there. We got a rough road ahead of us, but Tom is real proud of us, and you know, we're real proud of what we've done for the tour.
Just for the record, Dave Dion is now the leading money winner at the Oxford 250 with $73,000 in 13 different Oxford 250s. Jeez, I think you might have to make this his job. And how about Dan Wolf, 1:15 a.m. in the morning? Any parting thoughts? Every year, the Oxford 250 seems to get a little bit better. It draws a bigger crowd. It has more cars. This year's Oxford 250 was no exception. I can only wonder what next year will bring. From Oxford Plains Speedway for Trackside, I'm Dan Wolf. We'll take a short break. Don't leave us here. When we come back, we're going to recap some of the action this weekend in New England. We'll be back in a moment.
This is no Sunday drive. This is true automotive performance. It takes advanced technology in the only parts of your car to hold it to the road, your tires. To answer this kind of driving challenge, you need Merchant's Tire and Car Care's BF Goodrich Comp TA. It offers you more performance than you may ever use. The BF Goodrich Comp TA, from your TA trained and certified specialists at Merchant's Tire and Car Care, keeping you on the road for 65 years.
Load Ranger loads again. Just as easy as that, the original Load Ranger takes the work out of loading and unloading your truck. It's perfect for farmers, contractors, electricians, repairmen, outdoorsmen, and more. You can use the Load Ranger as a cargo platform, display area, workbench, and with the optional hideaway ramp, a loading help for lawn tractors, ATVs, and more. The Load Ranger's rugged construction will give you years of dependable service. To find out more about the original Load Ranger or to be a dealer, call Easy Entry of New England today. The Load Ranger loads again.
When you look for the best in thoroughbred racing, turn to SportsChannel, because we've got the best racing card around. All year long, SportsChannel takes you out to the races for a complete wrap-up of all the day's events at Suffolk Downs. Every racing day, we'll recap the day's races from the East Boston Oval and take a look at the horses to watch. Fred Conover, Mike Welch, and Craig Skoulos have all the day's racing action. Just one more part of the best racing action around, and it's only on SportsChannel.
Welcome back, racing fans. Well, it's going to be another big racing weekend, and this Friday night there's going to be 3 major events. At Stafford, the annual Axelrod Tire Modified Madness will take place for the SKs. At New England Dragway, jet cars, dragsters, and trucks will be features. And up at Beech Ridge, the big $3,000 first prize to the winner of the late model 150. And don't forget, tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, at 8 p.m. right here on Sports Channel, it will be Track Talk with host John Spence. And this week, you'll get a chance to talk with Coors Tour Director Tom Curley. And we're sure Tom's going to have a lot to say about his point leader, Jamie Obie, who just won the Oxford 250. And next week on Trackside, we are scheduled to cover the Beech Ridge 150 as well as some regular Saturday night and Sunday night events. Well, everyone, I'm Bill Burt, and I want to thank you for watching. That's about all we have here. But everyone here on Trackside, I'd like to thank you for watching New England's Racing Magazine.